Hello and welcome to part 2 of BNTV, and I'm delighted to be joined by so many people. We've got the full BN team here, minus of course Daniel Herbert, who's somewhere on the planet enjoying a week off, I'm sure. Now we've asked all our followers on Twitter and on Facebook to pose some questions, and the BN team have agreed to field them. We'll start with Scott Alexander Simpson. Now his question was, anybody feel free to jump in, is Nathan Cleverley too scared to fight Tony Bellew again?
John?
What do you reckon?
Don't know.
I wouldn't imagine he's scared.
No.
No, I don't think he's scared. I think the way things worked out after the first fight, what happened was Frank Warren had said that Cleverley's next fight would be in Wales. There wasn't a venue that was going to be the right size for a Cleverley Bellew fight, which would have probably drawn about another 10,000 or so crowd. So Cleverley's next fight was, I think, in front of about 3,000 or 4,000 people. And obviously to have that kind of crowd, it wouldn't pull in the money needed to pay what Bellew and Cleverley probably would have needed to make the fight happen. And I think Cleverley, he won the fight, and I think he's keen just to move on. It's one of those, really, when you win a fight like that, you're not desperate for a rematch. You kind of want to move on to bigger and better things and put that behind you. Yeah, it was a hard fight, and I think it would be hard again if they fought. But I don't think Cleverley is a sort of dodging type.
I think he thinks he's been there, done that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'd expect so.
Well then, Scott, I hope that answered your question. Okay, right, we'll move on now. Here, Wheelie, you can answer this one. Right, this is from Pete Turner. Cheers for this, Pete. Right, with 3 defeats, including 2 in a row, is Amir Khan's claims that he's in a different class to Kell Brook unfounded, and should they get it on?
I think you can arguably still claim that, because even though he's lost his last 2 fights, is against Garcia and Peterson, and they're better than anyone that Brooks fought, really. Carson Jones is a level below them, I think. So I think you could still claim that, definitely.
Yeah.
And I would definitely like to see them get it on as well, because Khan's obviously got a point to prove now after his last 2 defeats, and maybe like a change of scenery, moving up in weight, maybe a change of trainer. Definitely be a great fight, I think.
Yeah. I think if you were to take the promotional problems out of it, that's really a fight that makes sense now.
Exactly, yeah, that's it.
Okay, there you go, Paul. Answered by Paul. Right, so we will now move on to one for John. This is from Dave Brown. With such a proud history at the Olympics, what's gone wrong with the amateur code in the US?
I mean, they're not really set up for tournament boxing or amateur boxing. I mean, they only appointed their coaches. It was a matter of weeks before the tournament. Everyone else has had their systems in place for years. You know, you can see in the way they box, they all box like pros, then they box like they'd be good pros, but it's not quite the same sport. There are different rules in amateur boxing, there are different ways of scoring. It really seemed like they have a team of good boxers let down by their own system. You know, when you ask them about other boxers they're going to be competing against, they don't really know who they are, so they haven't done any analysis of them. You don't see them in tournaments really outside the World Championships and their own Olympic qualifier, whereas like the Cuban team will come over to Europe to compete in the Boxer and the Stranger, which aren't the majors like the Worlds, but it means they get to box the Russians and the Ukrainians, so they kind of know what they're going to be up against. Yeah. So it's not that America has bad boxers; they don't. They have good boxers. They're just not prepared for Olympic boxing. Do you think they are losing people to MMA and to American football and baseball and other alternatives? Certainly in heavyweights. So yeah, I mean the heavyweight was brave, but not very good. Certainly the kind of the bigger and better athletes seem to be going. They're a very young team, which suggests a lot of them will turn pro as soon as they can. You know, a lot of their good ones were 19 years old. Britain were also very young, but again, they're kind of in their early 20s and a little bit more a little bit more seasoned.
I think quite a few of the Americans, as soon as they were eliminated, tweeted and they say that they were that's that for the amateurs now, then.
As soon as they were out of the ring, when they came into the mix zone, they were saying, "That's it, I'm off to the pros." I mean, there weren't, like the Brits were kind of distraught to lose, couldn't speak. The Americans were just, but I think by making it to the Olympics, that was their platform to launch themselves as professionals. So it's kind of individually, that was mission accomplished for them. They weren't. It's hard to say they weren't. I'm sure they trained hard and they were fit, but they just weren't. They weren't prepared to actually win medals.
But American boxing's been in decline for years, like amateur, isn't it? Since like 92, 96, that they haven't had Olympic success, have they? So why don't they recognise that? Why don't they go to international competitions?
Do you think do you think that in 4 years' time we'll see an upturn in the quality of?
Can't get much worse for them, can it?
No.
Results-wise.
I think what was funny about these Olympics is the Americans came sort of a little bit under the radar, didn't they? Because no one was tipping them to do much apart from maybe Raushi Warren, and so they sort of were really sort of not getting any of the headlines or anything. And I think most of them made it through the first round, and it was like, well, maybe actually they could be the sleepers. They could be the ones that people have written off, and then they could actually come good later on in the tournament. But then they had like a disastrous couple of days, didn't they? Where just pretty much everyone fell, didn't they?
Funny mentioning Raushi Warren. He's been to 3 Olympics as a boxer and not won any bouts.
Yeah.
He's never won.
The crazy thing about his bout with Ubali at this Olympics is he got the lead, not a very big lead, but normally in amateur boxing, if you're winning after the first round, you're going to win the bout, but you let it slide and let the Frenchman come back in.
Well, Dave. Good question. All right, Gary Shaw, who asked us. Nick, this is for you. You're quite passionate about the domestic middleweight scene. Why won't Matthew Macklin, or Darren Barker fight Martin Murray?
I don't know. I'd only be guessing, but
Go on. Have
you
a
can
bash.
imagine that they see it as a step back from where they've been. So Macklin's been in with 2 of the best middleweights. And he's had a taste of that, and he wants more of that. Whereas they think Barker has been and he's failed, and maybe they think it's a step back. But I don't know. It'd be good fights.
I think he's more likely to fight Murray than he is Macklin, which is a shame because I think a couple of years ago that was the fight everyone was talking about.
I remember Witter-Hatton was a big fight that never happened domestically, and these could all slip through the net, and none of them could happen. But it'd be a shame if they didn't box.
Yeah, I mean now you've got Andy Lee who's come back into the mix after the Chavez fight as well. It'd be nice for all 4 of them. But I mean we had all this with the turn of the century when we had Wayne Alexander, Steve Roberts, Takaloo and all those, and Richard Williams, and it wasn't until right at the end where Takaloo fought Wayne Alexander, but we had that great batch, and it's all very well having these guys in a big division, in talented division, but until they fight each other, it doesn't really translate. It kind of like the domestic heavyweights really, with Chisora, Price, Hay, and Fury. It's all very well and good saying it's a strong division, but you want to find out who's the best, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, and Gary did ask another question actually. It's in relation to kind of the domestic scene. Is the lack of domestic champions winning Lonsdale belts outright a concern? And with that in mind, is the British title not as prestigious as it used to be? I mean, it used to be front page news like 50s, 60s and what have you. Do you think, how can we change that?
Well, I think a lot of it's down to the desire of the actual boxer. I mean, there are still a lot of boxers around now who are, certainly what their immediate goal is to win a Lonsdale belt outright. And I think another thing is that there is certainly with the influx of titles, there's opportunities for more financial reward if they're going other directions. So they might make a defence, or they might just win the title. Then they might get an opportunity with one of the governing bodies that's offering more money.
Yeah.
So I think. It's obviously down to each individual boxer. Also, for the promoters and managers, there are some deeply talented divisions in this country at the moment. So it's not easy to make 3 defences of your title before moving on to the next level. So you could see managers and promoters, you know, vacating British titles. I mean, we had it with Tyson Fury, didn't we, with the David Price scenario?
Yeah.
You know, it's probably an easier option to go the other way and fight some mediocre Americans than it was to fight David Price for Fury.
Yeah.
Bigger risk, isn't it? Less reward.
You could arguably say as well that like it's bigger incentive to fight for like a WBO international title or something because you get high up the rankings,
Yeah.
even though it's not as prestigious.
Yeah. That's obviously a key thing. You know, once you know, a lot of those international balls and intercontinental titles and so forth will get you a top 10 ranking in the governing bodies, and then next thing you know, you're one fight away from a world title. So, you know, it depends on how quickly you want to progress and the way you want to do it. But, you know, those are real incentives for fighters.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that answer your question, Matt?
Wasn't my question, Nick. Hopefully that answers your question, Gareth. Get involved with all the best boxing banter at our forum, and that's forum.boxingnewsonline.net.